Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Office Hours with Jess. So, this week I'm going to be talking about a little bit of a different topic. So, I know that I'm usually here talking about how I'm like trying to be super productive, publishing papers, winning TA awards, like whatever it is. And life seems to be great, like all these great things are happening to me, and I'm being as successful as I can and working hard. But in reality, being in academia, being a student comes with a lot of failure and rejection and bad news. So I also want to kind of acknowledge that. And that's why I wanted to create a video about sort of how I work through and deal with failure and rejection when that time does come for me, which is quite often. And actually, this week has been a pretty hard week for me academically. Some stuff has happened, and like I found out I had to like completely rerun my analysis for my first aim, and I've already basically done the whole thing and wrote the paper and have to redo all of that. So things can just happen that like throw you off the track and um, get you really down. And this is what I kind of do to work through those times. So let me drag my little video to the other side so you can see the wonderful picture of Albert Einstein with his tongue out. So failure is success and progress. And I do want to emphasize that, you know, it's okay to like not always be successful and like doing things and winning things and getting papers and whatever. It's part of the process is kind of learning how to work through, situations that aren't always great. So my first tip is, or my first kind of thing that I do, these are kind of in chronological order, is just to let yourself be a little upset. Like I think sometimes when bad things happen to us as like academics or students, like we're told like, okay, you need to have a thick skin, like you can't let these things get to you, but they do get to you. And it's okay to just like be upset and like validate your own feelings and be like, what happened was not okay, not great, like, not uh, like doesn't make you feel happy. And it's okay to just let yourself be a little upset. And then kind of once you've let your emotions like trickle through you, then I would start moving towards the phase of like reasoning through it. I'm probably going through some like psychological, dealing with the steps of dealing with grief or whatever in some way, but I didn't base this off of any theory. This is just kind of what I do. But the next thing I do is I sort of reason through whatever it is that I like failed at, didn't get, or whatnot. And what kind of helps is I like to blame some like externalities you can't control. So kind of sitting and thinking like, okay, like what was it about the situation that I had no control over? So I can start to understand like this wasn't my fault. It wasn't my doing. And this was probably going to happen to me regardless, to try to make it feel like less something that I like is weighing on me. So the next thing I want to discuss is how it's important to vent and let yourself have that space, but not do it too much. So this can come in the form of like sometimes like I just call up a friend or my a partner or whatnot and just like vent to them about what happened. Just even just talking about it and just verbalizing it makes you feel better. And like sometimes if you don't feel like actually interacting with a human being, you can do that by journaling. And I've also done that just where I like will write or type in an empty document and just kind of like let everything out. And that does feel better. Um, but one thing someone did tell me once that I think is good advice is that venting can kind of be like emotional vomiting. Like if you do it, it's okay, but too like, or I guess emotional, like getting drunk. Like if you do it, it's okay. But if you do it too much, it's like vomiting and it doesn't feel good if you keep kind of like venting and like going in circles and like ruminating on the same thing. So instead, again, just make sure you have a good amount of healthy amount of venting. So instead of that vomiting, you are, happily coming out of This is just some image that like when those Bitmoji things were popular, I don't know why, but like they had a picture of my Bitmoji coming out of a toilet. And I think this is the vibe I'm trying to get at. But like, vent to your friends, just not too much. Another thing I do, and I think this is one of the most like more tangible things that I really like, and me, I love my sort of like tangible things I can hold on to for good. And that is creating some sort of positive list. I usually make this in like my notes app in my iPhone. And whenever I'm just like kind of like feeling sad about whatever it is that I'm trying to get over, I'll pull up that list and then kind of read through it. And it's just like a quick reminder of like, oh yeah, like I still have all these great things going on in my life. And I try to list things that aren't academic. So like my family, like Harry, my friends, like how much I love, my fitness teaching career, how I'm excited to be home for the summer, like things like that, like things that just have nothing to do with academics, just to remind myself that I have a great life outside of my academic career. And then I do add on a couple of things like that are good academic things happening that also remind me, okay, my career is still going on a good track. Like there are still good things happening to me in school or my academics, or my paper writing and whatnot. So again, that's just like a good tangible reminder that you can just reference, which I always like to do. And then like once you've kind of like reached that point where like, okay, like you're starting to grapple with what happened and you're feeling a little bit better, I like to then think of like, how can you take this like negative thing that happened to you and turn it around and try to find a way that you can come up with like a lesson learned from the situation. Like what could you do differently next time? Or what would you not do in the future or next time? Or like, what skills like did this kind of like highlight that you can work on and improve, and like what courses or things can you do, I don't know, but like there's something like, so for example, I found out that I have to redo my entire AIM-1 analysis, which has really crushed me because I worked so hard on that and I even like wrote the paper for it already. But I'm trying to think, okay, now I know to go one, ask for stats help much earlier than I did in the process. And two, now when I work on my second aim of my dissertation, I will have already gone through this whole process and I will not have to go through all of these like convoluted steps that got me to where I am now. So there's always, a silver lining, I guess some people would say. Oh yeah, and what's important is like I always like to write this down somewhere just to keep track so I know like, okay, this thing happened, but this is how I'm going to kind of move forward with it and have that written down somewhere. And then lastly, like I always do this too. I mean, this can be an optional one, but this makes me feel better. But like when I'm not feeling great, like or sad, I just like to be productive. It keeps my mind busy. I don't start thinking about whatever it is that's making me sad. So I will usually start working on something productive that makes me feel like, okay, even though I had a setback, I'm still moving forward. Or like do something that makes you happy, like go spend a day with like your favorite person or your family or your partner or whatever, and just like relax and enjoy. And again, remember that, you still have a lot of great things going on outside of your kind of professional life. And I want to end on one of my favorite quotes that I kind of hold on to that I think is very cheesy, which is that everything happens for a reason. I genuinely do believe in this. I say this all the time. I know it's very cliche, very, but I do believe this happens. One example that I'll give right now, I have this picture here is before the pandemic happened, I actually signed up to go through the Core Power instructor training and was so excited about it. And when the pandemic happened and I realized that that wasn't going to happen for me anymore, I got like really upset. I was like, oh my God, I was like so excited, so ready to like take that leap and become, an instructor finally in yoga and fitness and whatnot. So I got really sad like during the pandemic about kind of like that lost opportunity. But then when I came back to Harvard for in-person classes again, I found this program through the Harvard's, recreation that, trained me to be a more general group fitness instructor. And then I also got my spin certification. And honestly, this has been like the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I think even better than what would have happened if I had just gotten like a very specific, yoga training at a specific studio. So, I somehow was able to turn this around and like make an even better situation of it. And I know this isn't like an academic example, but it's just an example of how sometimes like for 2 years, I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to have this happen to me again during the pandemic, but then kind of came out of it and found something even better. So you never know, like I always look back and I'm like, so glad I didn't go through that core power training, because then I wouldn't be where I am now with my current fitness career. So a little personal story there. Um, and that's everything. Thank you all. Again, I wanted to say that you all are so great, regardless of what, setbacks, failures, rejections. That's all just part of the process, and we're all here to support each other. Thank you. Have a great rest of your week before I see you again for the next video.